Hello, and welcome back to the Science Center for another animal room tour. My name is Colin. I'm the curator of live exhibits here at the Science Center, and we're going to do another tour of our animals. Before I get started today, I want to apologize for last Thursday. I was so excited to get this camera over to our curiosity corner here so we could look at this planted tank, but I had a technological issue and I couldn't get the microphone working. So I could show you all this tank, but I couldn't tell you anything about it. So I've left the camera here all weekend. I hope you all have checked it out a few times. This is one of my favorite tanks. And today I'm going to talk all about this system here. This planted tank is one of our newest systems. We've had it here, I think now for almost a year. It's in the Curiosity Corner, which is the area for our youngest guests. It's part of our pet vet exhibit. And it's a pretty fascinating system. It is the only system at the Science Center that is not geographically theme-based. This tank, you would not find this ecosystem anywhere in one particular place in the world. This system is made up of fish and plants that come from all over the place and is really just here to look like a beautiful tank that you might find in a veterinarian's waiting room. And it gives our youngest guests a chance to look at some neat things happening in here. We've got lots of fish moving around. We've got some fun invertebrates. So let me give you a tour of this tank. I believe we have 7 species. Oh, and one thing, I got a few questions from folks who know me who asked what the heck was in the background. If you look back there, that you can clearly make out is our water table. We've got it shut down and cleaned out now, waiting until we can reopen. The way the light catches the way the table catches the light from that window back there, I had a number of queries if there was a waterfall going on or what was happening in the background of the tank. And this is a pass-through tank, so you can view it from either side. That made it challenging to set this tank up because it's not just viewable from one side, but viewable from both sides. So I had to make sure it looked nice from either side you looked at it. So first I'm going to give you all a tour of the fish if I can. Here we've got our gourami. This big one with the orange, mostly orange body and the blue dorsal fin there. He's the biggest fish in the tank. While he's friendly to other fish in this tank, we can only have one gourami in here, or at least only one male gourami, because he would be aggressive and fight with any other gouramis we put in the tank. He's a fun fish. He's usually easy to spot with that big size and the bright colors there. So that's our gourami. We've got a couple different species of tetras. This one here with the black stripe. Sorry, my camera work isn't so great. The tetra there with the black stripe, that's called a penguin tetra. You can see its black stripe goes down onto the bottom part of its tail fin. Kind of makes it look like a penguin foot. We've got a few penguin tetras in here. They're the larger species of tetras we have. And they're pretty fast. These can zoom around pretty quick. Then we also have 2 other species of tetras that are kind of hard to differentiate from one another. These here are neon tetras. They have the blue stripe along their body, really bright blue, and the red that encompasses half of their body. And that is the telltale sign how you can differentiate the neon tetras from the cardinal tetras. I am not seeing, well, I see one cardinal tetra, but it's hiding back in a corner. I will show you all some cardinal tetras in a little bit when one comes around. The cardinal tetras have a red stripe that goes the entire length of their body. they get a little bit larger. But they're fun fish. They've got those nice bold colors. They often swim in a school, which is also a fun thing to have in the tank. And then we have some Kiwi fish in here. Where is that one? There we go. That little fish there with the black dot on its side. That is a type of Kiwi fish. There's many Kiwi fish that are found throughout the world. And this particular species of Kiwi fish, its common name is the American flagfish. Somewhere, oh, there he is. We have a male. Oh, it's going to be tough for me to get a good shot of him. That one up there, just swimming out of our view. That is one of the males we have in the tank. I think, oh, there go two more swimming by. I believe those are both females. The females don't get as colorful. The males get much more colorful. And the males will have, where'd he go? There he is. He's hard to see. He's on the other side of the tank. But the males have red, white, and blue scales. And they're sort of flecked in place, and so some of them really do look like an American flag. Easy to understand how they got that name. So that's a Kiwi fish. The other species of Kiwi fish that we have at the Science Center are our mamachugs, which live over in our touch tank. Mamachugs are a brackish Kiwi fish. They're found in many different habitats. There he comes, swimming right over to us. Holy cow, look at that, giving us a good view. Of course, I can't, having trouble getting him in focus, but there he was. And we also have a small school of guppies in here. They're all hanging out right close by. Guppies are generally really friendly fish. They're excited seeing my movement here, hoping I'm going to give them more food. These were in-house produced guppies. We have a big school of guppies that we keep in the back room. They help keep some of our systems, our quarantine systems, to keep the biological filter active and going. Guppies are live bearers. That means they give birth to live babies, which is a neat trait, makes them very easy to breed. But the problem is they can quickly overwhelm a system. In some of our small tanks in the back, we've got several dozen guppies. I regularly have to thin those schools so we don't get too many of them. So in this tank, I believe we just have 4 right now. These are all male guppies I put in here. I didn't put in any females so that we don't end up with too many babies. Back in our quarantine system, which are pretty bare tanks so that they're easy to clean and treat when things are necessary. It's easy to catch them up back there and keep the number of fish at a reasonable level. In this tank, with all these plants growing in here, it would be quite difficult to catch all the little babies if they were having babies in here. So only male guppies in this tank. These are called fantail guppies or fancy guppies. You can see with the beautiful colors they have. 3 of them have the orange tails, the one has a yellow tail. They're fun, active fish. Well, let's see, I think we've got one more species I haven't talked about. We've got a number of them. They always hang out on the other side of the tank. Might have a little, there we go, that's not too bad. There's 3 of them. These are called glass cats, or ghost catfish. You can see they get that name because they are completely transparent. You can see right through their bodies. All of their intestines and innards are up close to their head, and then most of their body is just sort of an extension. It's part leading back to their tail. There's a 4th one just coming in, and they're completely clear. They're super neat fish. They often swim in a school, and they are a type of catfish. You can see the long whiskers they have. They use those to sense things around them, smell food, be able to gobble it up quickly. So that's one of my favorite fish in this tank. It's one of the first fish I ever kept. It was a glass cat. So those are all the fish in our tank, I believe. And we have lots of neat plants in this tank too, and that's really what makes this tank so special, is all these plants in here. All the plants in this tank are live plants. They're all real. No fake plants in here. Sometimes it's necessary to use fake plants, but I always do my best to try to keep live plants growing in our exhibits. It makes the habitat seem much more realistic, like things you would find in the wild. Again, this is an amalgam of plants, all sorts of mix of different plants. This big one here that's sort of taking over, I'll actually prune this one back pretty heavily today. This is called a water sprite, and they get quite large. So it takes regular pruning to keep that one in check. We've got an aquatic fern back here. There's another one, a Java fern. This is a moneywort here, this long tall one. Down here we've grown quite a nice carpet, a plant that's called Monte Carlo. You can see it's really filled in nicely. It's almost like a lawn growing. And mixed in, there's a little bit of dwarf hair grass there too. Carpets in planted tanks make a really nice effect. Helps it make it look sort of like a lawn growing. I also, now these aren't plants, the rocks in here though, these are special rocks I chose. They're called they're called dragon scale rocks. You can see with all the pits in them why they get that name, kind of look like tough, hard dragon scales. I chose these rocks because we have a little shrimp in this tank. Let me see, oh, there's one right there. This is one of our blue shrimp. This species is commonly known as cherry shrimp. The cherry shrimp come in many different colors. Red and blue are the most popular, but there are also clear ones and all different shades of red and blue. I believe there's even green ones. They're really neat little shrimp. They will breed readily when conditions are right for them. And these rocks are part of what make the conditions right. It gives them lots of nooks and crannies to hide in. The adult shrimp, at least with the species we keep, are generally pretty safe. I've not seen any large shrimp get eaten by our fish, but the little babies will get gobbled up by all our fish in here. Pretty much every fish in here would happily eat a little tiny baby shrimp if it had the chance. And so using this rock that has all these tiny pits and crevices all over gives those baby shrimp a place to hide. But these shrimp, let's see, here's another blue one here. There we go. We're looking at his tail. That's a blue one there. I just saw a little tiny clear one over here. See if I can get it to show up. Ah, there we go, right in the center of the screen. If only it would focus. That's a clear one. So the clear ones are what naturally occur in the wild. But people have found that there's variation with them, and that through selective breeding, people have been able to produce all these different colors and shades of cherry shrimp. When we started this tank, we put 7 shrimp in here. Oh, here's another one. I think this might be one of the black rose varieties, it's called. Of course, I won't be able to get it to focus. Maybe that is a blue-based one. Yeah, that looks like a blue one, actually, a dark, dark blue one. Some of the red ones are so deep red that they almost look like chocolate. Or a deep rose, black rose, they're called. Oh, he moved. I was going to try to show you our American flag fish, but he saw me coming and swam back over to the other side of the tank. There's another blue shrimp up here. When we started this tank, we put 7 shrimp in the tank. Can't remember if it was 3 reds and 4 blues or 4 reds and 3 blues. We started with just 7 shrimp, and now it is not uncommon that I can easily count well over 50 shrimp without even really trying. And that never includes any of the babies because they hide so well. So the shrimp have done incredibly well in this system, and we've got tons and tons of them. I had found a red one. We have very few red ones left in this tank, unfortunately. They seem to have not done well. The color has not come out as well in the breeding that's happened in the tank as the blues. So most of the shrimp in the tank are blue now. We do have a couple red ones. I found a red one just before the tour, but of course now that I'm doing the tour it has hidden itself away. Oh, actually I just made it out. Not sure I'll be able to get you all to see it. It's over on the far side of the tank. Yeah, tough to see there. There's a blue one, and just to the left of the blue one is a red one over there. So we have both the reds and the blues. We have a holding tank elsewhere in the museum in an office where we're trying to breed red ones to bolster our population of reds. And they've been breeding like crazy. In that tank I actually just counted dozens of little tiny baby shrimp. They're a little too small for me to see what color they'll be, but I'm pretty sure they're going to mostly be reds. They should be, as all the adults in that tank are reds. There's another blue one. But the shrimp are part of the cleanup crew in this tank. Having trouble staying focused on this one, but you can see they're constantly moving around. Oh, took it off quickly. They're constantly moving around. I'm not sure you can make it out, but I'll have trouble focusing on that one. Find one back down here. Ah, there's one. You can see they're constantly sort of picking at the leaves they're standing on, or the rocks they're standing on. They're eating little bits of bacteria and algae and other things. And so when you have a very healthy population of shrimp like this in the tank, they help keep everything clean. They help keep the plant's leaves from getting too overrun with algae. They help keep the rocks clean of algae. So while they're a fun creature to have in the tank for their own sake, and it's so much fun watching them zooming all around and interacting with each other. There goes our American flagfish. The shrimp really do help to keep the tank clean. And another one of our tank cleaners is the snail here. Of course it's on the glass, so it's a little bit hard to see its shell. It has this striped shell. Yeah, tough to see. This is called a zebra snail. And actually, let me show you here on this rock here. You'll see those little white dots. Those little white dots are the snails from the zebra snails, the eggs from the zebra snails. But these guys generally lay their eggs. My understanding is that they lay their eggs in brackish water, and that they'll only hatch with a certain amount of salt in the water, which this tank does not have. So this population, these snails will not reproduce in this tank, which is unfortunate not to have more, but is great to not get overrun by them. One problem with snails is they can become way too copious. You can end up with too many. I want to try to get focused on this guy. See if I can do that. Having trouble with that focus. Ah, unfortunate. I really wanted you all to see its radula working away. Snail's mouth parts are called a radula. And it's quite unfortunate I can't get that guy in focus. I am clearly an animal caretaker and not a cameraman. Oh, I've almost got it there. You can see that radula scraping away on the glass. So these guys are constantly zooming around, zooming at snail pace around the tank, and they're scraping away on the glass or the rocks, helping keep things clean. So they're a big part in keeping algae problems down. Managing a planted tank can be quite difficult. You have lots of plants in the tank, and so you need to keep nutrient levels up for the plants to grow and thrive and do well. There we go, that's a pretty good shot of it. You can see that mouth part working away. You have to keep nutrient levels up in a planted tank so that the plants can thrive and do well. But of course algae also will use those nutrients. There we go, it's heading back down onto the carpet. Algae will grow with those elevated nutrients, and this tank on a couple of occasions since we've had it set up has had some horrible algae blooms. When it first got going it looked great, but it wasn't a few months before we started having a hair algae problem. We were getting too much natural light coming in through the windows. So we put a special tint on the windows right around the tank here to limit some of that natural light. I also shortened the light cycle on the tank a little bit, which probably helped as well, and that helped cut back on the hair algae problem we had. But then it wasn't too long, and then the tank looked great for a little while, but it wasn't too long before we ended up with a green water problem. The algae, it was a free floating algae. It looked like the tank that somebody had poured like pea soup into the tank, and all the water was cloudy and green. And so then I had to put a UV sterilizer on the tank to help kill all of that free floating algae. If my camera can make it over here, I was going to show you my filtration system. Oh, I think I can just barely make it. And this is my filtration system here. That's my UV sterilizer with the blue light coming out of that tube. That UV sterilizer will kill just about anything that flows through it. Free floating algae. Unfortunately, probably baby shrimp too. Hopefully baby snails if they get through. We have a little bit of a snail problem in here. A different species of snails. You can see down in the sump there in the bottom, I'm not sure you can make it out, but there's a little shrimp hanging out in there. Lots of shrimp make it into our filter, and they seem to do just fine in there. Every once in a while I have to go through and scoop out all the shrimp in the filter and put them back in the tank. But then the part I really wanted to show you back here is this. This is a CO2 tank. It has CO2 is carbon dioxide. Plants breathe in carbon dioxide, and while they go through photosynthesis, they incorporate that carbon into their body. That's what grows the plant, and then they release oxygen. And that's where the vast majority of our oxygen in the world comes from. It's from plants and other photosynthetic organisms that produce oxygen. And so one way that we keep these plants doing well and outcompeting the algae that would want to grow in here is by putting lots of CO2 into the water. So this has a special system where it pumps the CO2 right into the system. And this right here, that's a CO2 atomizer it's called. It's a ceramic element that the CO2 gets pumped through to keep it in very tiny little bubbles so the CO2, the carbon dioxide, can easily dissolve in the water. So it's that CO2 tank. That's really an essential part to keeping such a densely planted tank like this. Good lights, good nutrients, and CO2 to keep the system doing well. So, this is our planted tank. It's a really fun system. I'm happy I got the chance to show it off to you all. With the I'm tethered by cords for this live stream. So it took me a while to figure out how to make it over to this side of the building to get to show this tank off. And unfortunately, since we've made it over here and I am tethered by cords, I'm not able to take you back to the animal room to show you anything over there right now. So this tank will be it for the tour. Oh, one more piece to show you if I'm able to. This might be hard to make out. That CO2, as I was talking about, plants and their photosynthesis, as they absorb CO2, let me see if I can find the spot. They absorb CO2 and release oxygen. And the oxygen actually comes bubbling up out of the tank. Oh, there. Sometimes you can see little bubbles going by, floating up to the surface. There goes another one. So all those little bubbles are little oxygen bubbles that were produced by these plants. So they breathed in the CO2 from that tank and the water, and then they breathe out the oxygen. So it's a lot of fun to see that happening. You know that the plants are doing well when they start bubbling like that. It means they're getting plenty of carbon dioxide and they've got the nutrients to do their photosynthesis. They're making sugars, carbohydrates, with the sunlight and the CO2, and then they release that oxygen. So thanks for coming and joining me for this tour. I hope you enjoyed looking at this tank, and it's become one of my favorite ones. It's such a peaceful, tranquil system. Lots of fun to see all these critters swimming around, doing their thing and seeing the plants grow. Can't wait till we can open back up and you all can come check out this tank in person. Well, thanks for joining me. And come back again at Thursday, 2 o'clock, and we'll do another tour then. Do check out our Zoom activity tomorrow. It'll be a special one that our keeper Emily is doing with Discover Cayuga Lake. They're going to be looking at and exploring our trout in the classroom tank. Well, thanks for joining. Take care. Stay healthy.